everyone, and welcome back to One Controller Report Podcast. This is episode 17, and I am Benjamin Yoder, here to talk to you today about video games, as usual. This episode is going to be a little different, because I went to GameStop Expo. I was here in town, and so I decided to go, and there's quite a few games there to check out. I was actually pretty surprised. On the website for GameStop Expo, there wasn't a ton of publishers listed, at least not like any main name publishers or anything like that, but pretty much most of the major players were there showing off stuff. So I'm gonna just go ahead and kind of jump into it and talk about some games. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty short though. I don't have a ton of impressions about these games, to be honest. There may be some I spend more time on, but we'll see. But we're just gonna go through the list of stuff I played. So actually the first thing I ended up playing was Shadow of Mordor 2. I forget what the actual name is now that I think about it. But anyways, it's a sequel to the Shadow of Mordor game that came out in like 2014, I think, something along those lines. I never played that original game, so this was kind of my first experience with that franchise. But it was kind of a lot of taken during the demo. They kind of throw you in on this ground, and there's like a bunch of missions in front of you. And you can just kind of start and accept any mission, and then go into this like big castle and try to do the mission in there. They have the overworld open as well. You can kind of run around. There's actually a really nice run feature in that game. It's like a very quick dash that you do that helps you kind of get around the overworld. I'm not sure if there's any mounts in that game, but this thing seems to possibly replace some sort of mount or something that would help you move around the environment easier. It's pretty much just a third-person action game, and my biggest issue I had actually during the demo was that it uses that like light auto lock-on feature. I had this problem in like Nier Automata as well, where it's like even if you're not locked onto someone, if you attack, your character will magnetize to an enemy. And so I had to like break these dogs out of this cage, and I was trying to break the chain on this cage, but there's like a monster behind me, and the character would just turn around every time I try to hit the monster. And I'm like, I just want to break the chain and leave. Like, I don't want to fight this monster or whatever, but yeah, it seemed okay. I probably won't pick it up or anything for the future. So yeah, I also played a little bit of Cuphead, but not a very small amount. Pretty much went through the tutorial, went to the first screen, and died. Apparently the demo was pretty popular, so once you died, they're just like, okay, get off the demo. So we waited for like 15 minutes to do like a 1 minute demo. At least for these first two, I'm a little negative about them, so sorry about that. But I actually had some like, so when you kill enemies in that game, it like creates this big like fireworks kind of puff of smoke, and it just like covered a big chunk of the screen, and I was surprised because like I could not tell what was happening as these enemies were dying. So maybe that plays into a part of the game of having to like, manage how you kill enemies to make sure, you keep an eye on what's going on. I'm not sure if that's really intended or not, and I didn't really get enough time to really say if it was or not. Far Cry 5, I don't really have anything to say about. You could choose your partner, and I picked a dog, and the dog ran around and bit people. Actually, I had a time where I had the dog go and like latch onto someone, and when he latched onto them, the person like flew off like 30 feet into the distance, and I was like, yep, this is about right for an open world game. So I played a bit of Knack 2, which is just straight up a beat 'em up, it looks like, and as far as I can tell, nothing's really been changed since the first game other than it being co-op. I could be wrong. I never played the first one, but from what I saw, it seemed like a very straightforward kind of like mash the button to get through waves of enemies, and then like some light platforming. This seemed to be more of that. I'm kind of surprised considering, the reception for the first game was pretty mediocre. The level design was just like these copy and pasted rooms and obstacles that are kind of repeated over and over and over again, with no real additional challenge layered on top of them outside of at the end. I think there's like a big kind of like battle royale arena that you fought a bunch of enemies in. But visually it still looks pretty good. I still don't understand why they're making this game. And like nothing about what they showed like convinced me otherwise at this demo. Yakuza Kiwami? Kiwami? I misspelled it right here, I'm pretty sure. So I'm going to guess Kiwami. So I actually played the original Yakuza on the PlayStation 2 quite a while ago. And I can't remember too much. I actually have an article that's laying around that I never published, so maybe I'll look at that and try touching that up at some point. If it's in decent enough condition that I can kind of like rework it, and just kind of put it out there. Like, these are my thoughts from when I played the game. I don't remember the specifics of the game, but there was some stuff that really stood out to me. There's like these 4 different battle stances that you could choose in this remake version. Essentially, you could like switch between them using the D-pad, and I'm not sure if the demo person really knew what he was talking about, but he basically was saying, use this power to hit this person while they're glowing this color to help like stop them regenerating health, which seemed maybe true, but it didn't really seem to do any differently when I was or wasn't using the power of their color. So I'm not sure. And I was asking him some questions about the demo, and he's just like, I don't know. Like, as what was new in the game, he's like, I don't really know. So I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, it seems like a nice remake, and probably the best way to play that if you come around, like actually decide to jump into the series now. I mean, at least visually, it looks like the best, and it looks like they're just adding extra content. The Majima Everywhere mode seems kind of cool. There's this character named Majima, and I think in the first game on the PlayStation 2, he really doesn't show up in the story all that much. I think he's in a few boss fights, maybe one boss fight here or there. But in this one, they have like a Majima Everywhere mode where Majima's just around, like challenging you to fights all the time and stuff. So that was a fun demo. I spent quite a bit of time on it. And then I also I did a fight with Majima, which for some reason he had like 500 life bars. It was ridiculous, and I had to like blow through all of them. But I also played the Mezu King Rock Paper Scissors game in the arcade. I don't know if this was a part of the original game either. It's like these ladies in bikinis dressed up as like beetles, wrestling in a ring, and you choose rock paper scissors to decide who you're gonna go, or like what move you're going to do, and you like, depending on what you chose, you know, obviously you win one way, lose the other way, and then you have like a health bar that goes up and down. So I think it's essentially best 2 out of 3 based on how much the health bar takes damage, but I don't know, maybe there's some more depth there where you can do more or less damage depending on what hand stance thing you choose. But Kiwami seems pretty cool. Yeah. I would love to play more Yakuza. I have Yakuza 2 on the PlayStation 2 that I need to play through still. So this is kind of all over the place. I just kind of threw these in as I was remembering them. Mario Odyssey I played. It's interesting because it's like an open world design, and I felt like it's almost directionless in a way that I feel like Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine wasn't. I feel like those games kind of gave you an idea of where you're going, but this game was just kind of like, just go find some moons or something. I don't know. So maybe in the full game there's more direction, but in the demo it was you played New Donk City and then a desert level. And New Donk City was really dense, and so you can kind of just go around and explore the environment and like find nook and crannies with these moons in them and stuff, and like coins that you can use to buy special clothes. And it was pretty cool. I liked it. Mario feels really heavy for some reason. Anyway, everyone's like, oh, he's fat, that's why. But I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe just because it's been so long since we had kind of like a normal gravity Mario. You know, Galaxy's been, super floaty and things like that. But it seems pretty cool. The desert level, I had some trouble like kind of figuring out what the extent of my abilities were. There are some areas that you need to kind of go over to, but when I used the bullet bill, I could only fly so far. Excuse me. I could only fly so far, and so you just like could blow up and then die in like the quicksand or whatever on the ground. It was kind of weird. I wasn't quite sure. But yeah, it seems really fun. I plan to pick that game up. It seems to kind of fit the Mario world well and tries to do quite a bit different. But hopefully it's not too directionless. I'm having issues with a lot of games where it's like, I feel like they're like, oh, go do the thing you want to do. And I'm like, sometimes I just want to play through a story mode and do stuff. But, I mean, Mario's always been pretty open-ended to some extent. But Galaxy was definitely much more linear. So, hey, it's been long enough. It's probably good to go ahead and do an open world one at this point. Even if it's not like a big open world, but, one without like as much as like, oh, you're going to go from this planet to this planet to this planet or something. Fire Emblem Warriors is a Warriors game. I don't know if I need to say any more than that. It's a Warriors game. There's a lot of guys, and you kill them all over and over and over again. And it looks nice. It visually looks pretty nice. And I'll say, as someone who hasn't played more recent 3DS Fire Emblems, I have no idea who any of those characters are. So it didn't really do much for me. It seemed fine. I don't know. I smacked some things around for a while. I was like, yep, this is this. It's been a while since I've played one of those. Last one I played was like Dynasty Warriors 4 on the PlayStation 2. So I probably should play a newer one eventually. But I don't think Fire Emblem Warriors is going to be that. If I do play one, it'll probably be like Hyrule Warriors or Dragon Quest Heroes or Samurai Warriors Katana for the Nintendo Wii. Which is probably a bad game, but I really want to check it out still because it's a sword fighting game on the Wii. And those are always really interesting in how they actually try to replicate the actions of a sword. Pokken Switch, I'm not really going to say anything about. It's the same game. As far as I can tell, it's the same game. It's a fighting game with Pokemon, which is cool. I just never played it to get really into it. So I punched some things. I punched some Pokemon. That was cool. Wolfenstein 2. So the demo they were showing is actually the wheelchair demo. I'm guessing this was probably something they showed at E3 or something. But you're like rolling around in this wheelchair shooting a gun. And at the first I thought it was a pretty cool gimmick. But what you find is kind of mechanically, it doesn't really matter that much. Your controls are slightly different, but it's still shooting things. And I like the idea of being in a wheelchair. Maybe like a harder difficulty would matter more, because I feel like in this demo, it's pretty much just kind of like roll up on people and start shooting them. I do like this like limited health and stuff. It's not like a regenerating health from what I can tell. Also, BJ Blazkowicz is a papa. So, yep, he's a dad. He's a dad. Almost dad. His lady person is pregnant, so maybe he won't be a papa. Maybe she'll die, and the baby will go with her. And he won't be a papa. I don't know, are you technically a father before a child is born? I'm not quite sure. I guess people say I'm going to be a father when they find out their child or their lady is pregnant. So I guess you're not a father till it is actually alive, well, outside of the body at least. Yeah. Extinction. Extinction was actually not a playable demo there. It was just one that we could sit down and watch. It's basically a third-person action game with like tower defense mechanics. I don't even know if I'd call it tower defense mechanics. You're not really setting up any kind of defensive structure. You're basically just defending a town, from what the demo showed at least. And you protect them from these giant orcs that are like huge. They're really, really big. Like you're the size of their toes. And so you protect the town from these orcs. And you have to like sever their head to kill them. Otherwise, like you can like limp their body pieces off, and that will like restrict their movement and like make them drop to the ground and things like that. But they'll regenerate that body parts, and then severing those parts from the orcs actually requires some energy, and sometimes you have to go like rescue town people to regain that energy. I'm not sure if like killing other like smaller orcs would recover. It seemed okay. It's an Iron Galaxy title, or at least they're publishing it. It seemed pretty reasonable. I don't think it's anything I'll ever play, but it was a pretty cool demo. Yeah. Battle Chasers, I believe that was called Battle Chasers. It says Chasters here, but again, I think this is a typo because my fingers I'm terrible at typing on a phone. It was like a turn-based dungeon crawler by THQ Nordic. And I tried to sit down and play that game, and it was super slow. And I asked the person that did it, I was like, can you move any faster? And he's like, no, you cannot. It is so slow. It took forever to do anything. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm missing something. I found that like a lot of these demos, the person there wasn't exactly 100% sure what was going on. So maybe I did miss something, but I don't know. It was super slow, and I just didn't enjoy it. It visually looked interesting, like good. It reminded me of like a 360 era kind of like XBLA, cell shaded, cartoony, budget style kind of thing. That's a very long descriptor for like it's kind of cartoony and bulky and squarey in a way. That's interesting. Squarish, like not Square the company, but squares, like bulky, sharp corners. There we go. Words. I know words. Hey, let's wrap back around to Yakuza 6. And I didn't get to spend much time with it. It was actually at the very end of the show. But because I had already like spent some time beating up people in Kiwami and stuff, I kind of took the Yakuza 6 demo to just kind of walk around and just like check out town. And I sometimes forget how much detail are in those games. Like I think of like Shenmue, and in Shenmue you can go around, you could like look inside of buildings, pick stuff up, like sit there and like look around those objects, and it's kind of crazy how much detail there is and like what they let you do in that game. And Yakuza's definitely not that, but you can like walk into these little stores and stuff, and there's just a lot going on. I think there's one thing I did was like actually like had people chase me into a convenience store to fight, which was pretty cool. I'm not sure if that's something that's been in the series a long time or not, but I enjoyed it. Also the drink meter is fantastic. You can like buy a coffee and then like walk around with it in your hand, and you can press the button to drink it, and as you do that, like the meter drops down to show like how much is left in the coffee cup. It's pretty silly. I would love to get back into Yakuza. There's just so many games at this point. Mario and Rabbids. I mean, this one's obviously out now, I believe. So maybe I shouldn't spend too much time on it, but I thought it was the movement options were really interesting, like being able to like dash into enemies, because like it's like an XCOM style like strategy RPG with Mario and Rabbid characters, and so you could like move these characters around this map, and then when you click on an enemy, you'll dash into them and like do damage. But if you click on an ally, they'll actually pick you up and throw you to another location, so you can get further movement by hitting someone that's like the end of your movement space and then throwing them even further. It seemed pretty cool. It looked a little simple at the start, but maybe it gets better towards the end or like later in the game. The Rabbid humor seems a little overbearing at times, but I don't know. I mean, if you like Rabbid humor, then there you go. Like, that's cool. But it's just a lot of the points where the Rabbid is like, look at this Rabbid doing something dumb. That's funny, right? And I'm like, I guess so. Whoopo is a game I never heard of. Apparently it came out in 2016. I'm going to cough real quick. Sorry, I'm still trying to get over the last of my sickness. So Whoopo is like this little like twin stick shooter platformer thing. You're like this little white guy, like a little white blob thing, and you just like shoot these little colored blobs at other things. It's pretty cute, and you like put hats on your character, and those hats seem to do something when you like equip them. Like I put a bird on my head, and the bird helped me when I fell off a cliff and things like that. But it's one of those games where like the people at the booth weren't super helpful. They didn't really know a ton about the game, it felt like. So I was just like, I have these hats, and I can't tell what they're doing right now, but it seems like they have some kind of purpose. He was saying they're just cosmetic, but they take away your ability to shoot too. And then again, like I said, with the bird on my hat, it did something. So I have a feeling that those hats actually do something. They just didn't know what it did. But apparently it was there because it's coming out on PS4 and Xbox One. I asked about a Switch version, and they seemed a little wishy-washy on that. But they sound like it might happen. Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet. So Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet. If this is a normal show, I might have talked about this game anyways. It looks kind of neat because it's like a shooter. So So there's this game called Freedom Wars. It came out for the PlayStation Vita, and it's like a Monster Hunter like, where you can like use guns and melee weapons to fight these big like monster robot things. And you also have a grapple hook that let you grapple around the areas. And Freedom Wars is a really cool game, even it has problems. But it did not sell well. And so So will probably never be a Freedom Wars 2, but some of the team who worked on Freedom Wars 2 is working on Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet, and it's got like the same grapple mechanic kind of thing, or at least a similar grapple mechanic kind of thing. It's also a game that focuses on guns and melee weapons. This demo was really rough. So the game's coming out next year, so maybe next year it'll turn around, but oh man, the frame rate was terrible. There was like no impact to shooting guns. I could barely tell I was even shooting a gun unless like a number was appearing to show I was hitting for damage. The melee stuff is okay. The grappling kind of works. It's like really janky at times, and like it's very unclear what you can grapple onto and what you can't grapple onto. I want that game to be good just because of the Freedom Wars connection. And I kind of have a soft spot for Hollow Fragment because of how like mess of a game that is, but that's also a completely different game compared to this. I hope it comes together. I really do, because I would love another game like Freedom Wars. So, but we'll see. In addition, I also played Gundam Versus. And this is another one of those like Gacha Force kind of like arena mech games where you have like a handful of skills that have limited uses, and you use those uses, and then once you've used up all your limited uses, your character has to like recharge those uses. And it's all about like dashing around and strafing around your enemies and stuff. And when you die, your character, or mech in this case, has a certain cost, and when you die, that cost subtracts from your team's total. So you can have a stronger mech, but when you die, it will do a lot more damage to your team. Or you have a weaker mech, but when you die, it does a lot less damage to your team. I find these kind of games really exciting. I wish I played more of them. I mean, like, I think Dissidia kind of falls into it to some extent. But they can also often feel like pretty claustrophobic and confusing, especially with how fast and how like janky, maybe janky's not the word. It's like very immediate. Like switching a camera is like it whips to that other character. It's not a smooth transition, and it's just a lot of like whipping around the camera and stuff. And I played Gun Cannon, and I love Gun Cannon from the original Gundam, and I'm glad it's in there. It's real dumb. You can throw boulders because Gun Cannon doesn't have enough weapons, and there's one episode where Gun Cannon threw a boulder, so they put that in the game for some reason. Sonic Forces. Sonic Forces, like, as a whole, looks kind of interesting because you have the old, like, create a character thing, and you can, like, give them certain skills and specials. And so when I played, I definitely wanted to play the custom character, and that's exactly what I did. Maybe it's just this character, or maybe it's just in general. The movement and, like, jumping and stuff didn't feel quite right. Sonic always has kind of these weird, like, awkward jumping and movement mechanics, but I don't know what it was about this one. Maybe just I needed more time with it to get kind of the moveset. It was like a Green Hill Zone kind of area, but it was completely 2D. I'd be interested to see more about the 3D stuff. I really think the Sonic games do best when they focus on like mixing up between 2D and 3D. The focus on 2D to me just kind of kills any kind of excitement I get out of those games. I mean, obviously people like the 2D ones, and I think like Sonic Mania, that's 2D obviously, because that's like what it's making that style of like 16-bit game, you know. But it was cool to get like to choose your equipment, and you have, you know, these different items you can choose when you go on the stage. So I think I got like the electric whip or something, so I would whip around this whip and destroy a ton of enemies at once. What I didn't like was that you have a secondary aspect to your weapon, but it's not available at all times. You actually have to get an item that lets you use it for one-time use. So this one has like a light dash kind of thing where you like dash between rings and enemies and stuff like that. And because it's limited use, or really only one-time use until you find the next one, there's areas where you want to use it, but you can't because you don't have it. So it just kind of... It's like they're limiting you to only using it in specific places they want you to use it. So you as a player don't have the ability to kind of get creative with what those weapon skills are. And you can only bring one up at a time, too. One weapon at a time. So you can't mix and match the gadgets, which I think is kind of a shame, too. I want Sonic Forces to be good, but it's probably... Yeah. Sonic Forces. Coming out. Thanks, Sonic Team. It'll probably be okay. I'm pretty okay with Sonic games usually. I think it's most of the people that aren't. I played a little bit of Dissidia Final Fantasy, the console version, NT, Dissidia Final Fantasy NT, or something like that. And as a fan of Final Fantasy, I like the concept of Dissidia, but I never really put much time into it to really have a good concept of what's happening. I bought it for PlayStation Vita a while ago. And so I played one round here, and the presentation looks really great. And, I like being able to play the different Final Fantasy characters over the years. I played Shantoto, because Final Fantasy XI, gotta represent. I'm still in my Final Fantasy XI mood, so I'm there. I used Retribution with the staff. I know what Retribution is in Final Fantasy XI, so I use it in the game. And it kind of works like Retribution did in Final Fantasy XI. Not really, actually. Actually better than the Final Fantasy XI Retribution. Let's not get into details about that. So I need more time to figure out what I'm doing with that game. But it looks fantastic, and I can't imagine anything about that game being particularly offensive. If you are a fan of Dissidia, you should also like Dissidia NT. I just wish I had more experience to talk more knowledgeably about it, but yeah, it's like a one quick demo and that's it. Lost Sphere, which is Square Enix's kind of like classic RPG kind of thing, from the team that made I Am Setsuna. This is pretty cool. It's a turn-based RPG, but it lets you move around the arena freely, so you can have a character with like these area-based attacks. And when you select your attack, you can move the character around the entire arena freely, and they'll just run around, and you can like put your cursor wherever you need it to be. It was pretty cool. It's got a nice look to it. It is kind of like a mobile game to some extent, but I think that kind of like low poly look isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's not low poly, but I don't know. It's like super deformed, and it looks pretty low budget in general, but it was fine. It was fun. I had a good time with it. Ni no Kuni 2. I think the first Ni no Kuni is a turn-based game, and this game's like an action game. And I don't know. I don't know if it's for the better or not. I never played the first one, so I don't know what that turn-based combat was like. But Ni no Kuni 2's action system just kind of like rough. It's very, very kind of I don't know, like nothing really flows well into each other, and it felt like everything was kind of like you kind of lock yourself down into like doing a move, and it doesn't feel great as an action game. There are these like little spirits that are running around the level, and you can like use them to summon spells or like certain traits like bonus defense and things like that. Yeah, it's I don't really know how to put it into words. It looks great. It looks fantastic. But I probably won't play it. It felt kind of eh. And then I like Ghibli, but I probably would just go watch one of the movies if I wanted to get into it. And I never played the first one. Metroid 2 Remake. It felt like a Metroid game. Maybe the demo showed some more unique aspects to it, but it felt like a Metroid game. I didn't really have anything in it to say otherwise. But I did die mid-demo. I fell into like a poison lake and was like, oh, whoops. That was the end of my demo. Rest in peace, Metroid Prime 2. Metroid 2. Returns. Samus returns. Then I played some Monster Hunter World. And Monster Hunter World was interesting because you have these like... I haven't played Monster Hunter since Tri, but I believe this is the first time they have it so these areas are all interconnected. Usually have like 13 different areas broken up. I did get lost a few times because it was like some of these areas are like multi-layered, but they don't really show well on the map. So it's like, here's this monster in this spot, and then you go there and you're like, there's no monster here, and you're like, oh, there's like a layer below me and a layer above me. And because I didn't really know the map layout, I didn't really know how to get around to the top or the bottom layer. So I just had some moments where it was like, but it was Monster Hunter. It was very convenient to be able to change the weapon like mid-match and stuff. I got like started with like some two-handed sword and was like, nope, I just want to use my great sword, or like two dual swords is what I got started with, and then I switched over to the two-handed sword because it's just like an easy weapon to kind of get into and use. It's got nice defensive options and offensive options. And yeah, that's it. That's the impressions I have for all of those games. I know that was kind of a quick run through all those, but I also had probably more than 20 games on that list for a podcast that is only 20 minutes long. So, GameStop Expo was pretty cool. There were not that many people with a lot of publishers there. There's very short lines most of the time, and I was surprised that there was a lot of stuff that hadn't been out yet. There's some stuff that, had been out already or coming out very soon, but, I was really surprised to see Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet there. And it probably should have been there, gauging on that demo. but at the same time, Sword Art Online is not a series known for its quality in terms of the video games. It's known for being pretty okay and serviceable for what that series is. So yeah, I guess that's it for this week. We'll go back to a normal show next week, which probably makes more sense rather than me like verbally try to shoot through these demos as fast as possible. Be like, I like this thing about this game that I played in this demo. It's probably so narrow that it's hard to get a ton out of, and there's probably, unless you know what these games are ahead of time, I realize that you're not going to get a ton out of it. Listen to me here say those little like bits at a time. So yep, that's gonna be it for this week. Thank you guys for listening, and you have a good week. I'll see you next week. Bye.